Hello and welcome to Walk the Cinema podcast. Today we're joined again by Eric from Find Your Film.
Hello, hello.
And we're going to be talking about Cloak and Dagger. So you picked this movie. Again, I'm going to let you introduce it because you're the guest.
Yeah. Well, not much to introduce. This was just a movie I saw a bunch as a kid. I believe this came out in 1984. Directed by Richard Franklin, starring Henry Thomas and Dabney Coleman. Obviously, people probably know Henry Thomas most from E.T., which is weird because watching this as a kid, I didn't put that together that Davy Osborne was also Elliot. For some reason, that just we'd watch Star Wars and Indiana Jones with my my nephew likes those Indiana Jones, well, more Star Wars, but like he never put together that Harrison Ford or that Indiana Jones and Han Solo was the same person.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess. And then oddly enough, like I remember Dabney Coleman being in a bunch of stuff around that time. And then he didn't really disappear because he's had a bunch of credits since, but
Right.
I just haven't seen him in a lot of things. But anyway, this was a movie that I watched a bunch as a kid and then haven't seen for decades. So when you asked me to pick a movie, I was like, well, fuck, maybe I'll just pick that. This will be a good excuse to go and revisit this and see how well it holds up or maybe doesn't hold up.
Yeah.
So
It's
that's
good
kind of my,
timing because Vinegar Syndrome is putting out like a huge box set for this
yeah.
with a bunch of extras and a little toy from the game. It's really
Well,
cool.
gonna have to dig out the old Atari and Cloak and
Yeah,
Dagger.
that was
I never had an
something.
Atari, but
Yeah, that was something that I read about this movie, kind of trying to
Hmm.
read stuff about it before talking about it. That they had like a tie-in game for the Atari. That it was
Hmm.
Cloak and Dagger for the Atari that came out kind of alongside with the movie, so that it could kind of have like a double release thing,
yeah,
I
Yeah.
guess. And I thought that was pretty neat that they
To
did
be
that.
fair, ET also did that and didn't work out for for
That's
the video game
yeah.
version. But this one, I don't know much about the video game, and I didn't know much about the movie itself. It's everyone has their own childhood classics, and this feels like some of my childhood classics. Like it doesn't feel very different from it. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
don't know if that makes sense. Where the story of the kid doing these things and then the dad being the hero at the end because family is better than what you can imagine or whatever. It's a pretty familiar story,
mm,
but I had fun with it.
Yeah, there was some real good filmmaking stuff in this that I noticed that I wouldn't have picked up on as a kid.
Mm.
Like there was that the transfer where I'm trying to remember what scene it is that they're running on the street, and then the camera pans down, and all of a sudden they're in like the sub garage, and
mhm.
it's just like I went back and watched that again, looking because you figure it's like a split screen thing, but I'm looking for like the seams on that. And that looks pretty good. Certain scenes where there's a couple scenes where they got the cars chasing them. So like they're sitting there talking, and you see in the rear view just real subtly the car kind of comes behind them. It's been following them for a while. Stuff like that is pretty fun. I love that they chose to cast the same person, in this case Dabney Coleman, but the same person as Jack Flack
Mm.
and Davy's dad.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
like
Because
that
I
too.
mean you kind of have to, because that's sort of the theme of the movie, I think, is the imagined
Right.
heroes in contrast to your uh parental heroes,
Parents.
maybe.
Yeah, because like I think it is kind of like a manifestation of him wanting his like the child wanting his dad to be in his life or to be his hero because his mom's already dead.
Hmm.
And his dad, it seems, doesn't have that much time for him. Like he's
Right.
always at work and stuff. So he kind of has to create this imaginary friend and protector because he doesn't really have the connection that he wants to have with his parents and or his like remaining live parent, you know.
Yeah, it's a pretty imaginative way of doing that connection with the dad that a lot of movies do, but not in this way.
I also like how like Jack Flack is he's real like he's real cool and strong and this and that, and you can totally see why he looks up to him. And as the movie goes, you see you know, Dabney Coleman as his dad becomes less of a stick in the mud and more of a I get what you're saying, and Jack Flack becomes more of reckless kind of bad influence on Davy. And so you know, they start one way and then end up the, you know, complete opposite, except that spoiler alert, his dad like saves the day from an exploding plane, which we won't get into how that actually works. I'm not sure the mechanics of that works too good, but
that looked
we
funny.
definitely clapped at that scene.
Yeah,
where
that looked so funny.
He's walking out of the burning.
The green screen didn't look great in HD.
Yeah. Wait, oddly enough, though, like the green screen stuff, at least I think, well, actually, it was probably blue screen back then, but the those things have like a certain amount of magic to me. Probably a lot of nostalgia. Like when he's like looking at himself after you know, with the bullet holes behind him, and you know, watching it today, you can totally tell it's like, oh, that's, you know, you know, obviously like a blue screen, green screen background, whatever. I remember seeing stuff like that as a kid, and even now, the nostalgia that just kind of the kind of outline, I guess, kind of like how I have right now with the background that no one listening to this will see. But that has a bit of magic to it, and I can't quite put my finger on it. But like, you know, he's looking for the bullet holes, and he doesn't have it because he's an imaginary person. But just the fact that he has like kind of that blue screen kind of border on his body just gives him a bit of a magic look to me that I always like. But also, ultimately, it's cheesy to a lot of people, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of how I feel about I've talked about this movie a lot, but The Princess Bride, the ROUSs, where they're just like those big rodent things, and it just looks like someone threw a giant fake rodent at the main character for them to attack. And that's I mean, I feel like if someone watched it now, they could see that's a little like, oh, doesn't hold up, but it is like a nostalgic feeling for me because that's what I grew up on.
Also stuff like the original Clash of the Titans, like they have Medusa, you know, or that what's that devil guy, I can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen that one too, but you know, it had the claymation, you know, they use a claymation and it totally looks fake, but at the same time the movement on that just really creeps me out. It doesn't look real at all, but the aesthetic of that really does something for me. And same with
in 2001 A Space Odyssey. That's like a movie that everyone holds so dear, and the monkeys, the more HD we get, like we watched it in 4K the last time, and they're clearly men in suits, but it still has the same magic it did when you watch it for the first time. Just because the effects age doesn't mean that they're bad.
But men in suits are technically apes, so
that's true.
Apes playing apes. But this was a pretty fun rewatch, and like I always I get kind of nervous watching stuff like this, because on one hand I'm like, oh, I love that as a kid, but on the other hand I'm like, oh, if this sucks, it's just I should just leave it in my brain. But this is kind of one of them. Kind of like a Fly the Navigator, because I saw that it was been a couple years ago, but I watched that again recently, and I think the strong family elements of this and with Fly the Navigator, probably more so with Fly the Navigator, but I think they hold up pretty well. That it kind of, you know, I mean, this one's definitely cheesy, but I think it's the heart of the movie kind of still holds up pretty well, I think.
Yeah, it definitely reminded me of some stuff that I think that we grew up on, like of the Vin Diesel movie
Babysitter.
where he's the babysitter or the pacifier. That's what it's called.
Pacifier from like 2004.
Where it's like, manly man like having to team up with a kid. Like, even though it's not the same plot line, it kind of reminds me of that, or like the Jackie Chan Spy Next Door again, where it's like kind of seen through the kid's lens, and like they think like this dad figure is kind of lame, and doesn't have he has a boring life outside of.
They all have similar nostalgic vibes that I got from this, even though I've never seen this. Like, I could easily imagine growing up watching it because it felt like the same formula that still is used now because it works, especially for kids. And this one is so like expansive in its imagination, where they're using video games so early on. Because now you use video games as like that's nothing. Everyone has them, right?
Yeah.
So you can use them easily and put them in any part of the movie, and it doesn't look weird. But this could have been a terrible risk if video games didn't evolve and become more popular. Video games died, no one would be, talking about Cloak and Dagger. It'd just be one of those relics from its time with a technology that doesn't exist. But the formula is still there, and that's what's important. And this, got lucky that video games are still popular, and we understand all the references to them.
Yeah. I do like, though, that you have to beat instead of just a passcode, you have to just beat a game in order to get to the top secret government information.
I mean, I feel like that's a smart. I would not have made it through. I'm really bad at video games.
That's exactly how a kid would do it, though.
Yeah.
If you're gonna hide something in a video game, you gotta beat it. You gotta beat all the bosses.
Gotta complete it.
It's not just disguised as a video game; it is in the video game.
It's like, all right, let's get this file. Oh fuck! I gotta beat Super Mario 3. This is gonna be tough.
And
they couldn't recruit someone off of Twitch. They had to learn it.
Well, they got the video game the guy to beat it for him, and then he ends up dying, which this movie I think had a surprising amount of death in it for for like a kid's film.
Having a kid in a trunk with his dead friend.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of dark, and it was like this. I mean, I don't know if I can think of an example that is that not necessarily graphic, but that kind of morbid.
Yeah.
That's in the same realm of this movie. So that might be
that would be Flight of the Navigator, because the whole point of that is that the kid goes with the aliens, but he's gone for like 10 years, 15 years, something like that. And when he comes back, he's at the same age. His whole family thought he was dead the whole time.
Yeah.
And then to have his older brother come back as just a little kid, and he's like, that's some pretty dark shit. But yeah, this definitely has. I feel like, and I could maybe, this is back in my day, old guy thoughts. But I feel like movies back in the day weren't afraid to fuck with kids.
Right.
Like,
yeah, for sure.
Or airplanes.
Yeah. And not just like, but like, here's a kid's movie, get scared of it. It'll fuck you up a bit, but you'll be all right. Or maybe that's for the best. Or maybe they still do, and I'm just not watching enough kids movies, which is also
they're not.
Possible.
They don't do it.
I wouldn't say that they do it. The only thing that I can really think of is there's this Cartoon Network show called Courage the Cowardly Dog that has pretty scary imagery, I would say, and like it's creepy. And I just remember like my dad, as I got older, was like, oh, I remember that show, and I was so confused that you loved it, because I was convinced it was going to give you nightmares, but it never did. But that's the only thing that I can think of, and that came out like early 2000s. I think now they've kind of steered away from anything too morbid, I guess.
Yeah.
But even with morbid stuff, I think what would scare me the most as a kid in Cloak and Dagger would be like the old people turning on him. For some reason, I got like an eerie vibe out of that, because they're like, it's a sweet grandma and grandpa, and they look so innocent, And you don't trust strangers as a kid, but they look like your grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
They don't look like they're gonna hurt you, and then they like turn on him.
Yeah.
And I think that would have like scared me as a kid more than dead bodies, to be honest.
That was kind of like that's kind of what got me is with The Shining. Because I
Mhm.
imagine, oh shit, what if my dad was trying to kill me and mom?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like that was
Exactly,
just in. I mean, I'm fortunate that that's a what if scenario.
Right.
Unfortunately, like people, that is a scenario that they've lived. But also like with one of the thoughts of this movie is that the dad being the hero. Like I always thought of my dad, like when I watched Transformers as a kid, like my dad was synonymous with Optimus Prime. So like they look nothing alike, sounded
Right.
nothing alike, but for some reason they did to me in my head. Then I got a little bit of this out of that. I was wondering, do you guys? I don't know what your relationship was like with your parents, but did you have anything similar to that, or maybe other heroes of yours growing up, where you kind of deified them in a way, or saw them as some other than human sort of thing?
There was this TV show, like a kids TV show in Europe that had like an older lady that like sang in a garden and took care of kids, and that kind of reminded me of my mom. Yeah, but it was just like a middle-aged lady with a guitar, and she grew flowers and sang to kids, and that was like she had the same name as my mom, so that helped, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I do have a good relationship with my parents. I think that with my mom, I just had high expectations of her. I just saw her kind of on a pedestal, but I don't think I ever really had like a piece of media where I like associated her with that, or
Yeah.
even with my dad. I feel like same type of thing. I just had really high expectations of my parents. Like I thought that they were, above being a human, kind of. So when they did make mistakes, it felt extra bitter.
Right. When you're a kid, the adults close to you, they don't make mistakes. They know everything.
Yeah.
That's why you ask them everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I was so pissed off when the Michael Bay Transformers came out. It's like, you're fucking with my dad's legacy. Not gonna. That was personal shit, damn it.
Yeah.
Michael Bay.
He does his best, I guess.
Does he? I don't know what his best is.
I had to go pull up the IMDb. I gotta see what Dabney Coleman was in. And
is this Elliot from E.T.?
I remember him being in a bunch of stuff. Like, but the only thing I can think of right now is 9 to 5. But I swear to God, he was like, he just seemed ubiquitous at that time.
He has the look of the time.
He was a show that we both watched on I think it was Disney, Recess. He's the principal.
Oh.
Yeah. Principal Peter Prickly.
He's the
in
voice
Recess,
of the principal.
which was,
that's
a
funny.
fun show.
Yeah.
It was about, a little elementary school that it's a show that takes place at an elementary school during the recess block, and shenanigans happens. And
so you got 9 to 5, Tootsie, War Games, Muppets Take Manhattan, Cloak and Dagger. So yeah, that Dragnet. Yeah, those are all stuff I saw as a kid, so that made sense. Hot to Trot.
I recognized the kid from E.T., and that's pretty proud of myself because I don't like E.T. at all.
Yeah, you have a personal thing against E.T.
What do you not like about the E.T.?
I just don't like it's boring, and it just doesn't capture my imagination. And the E.T. himself looks really, really bad now, and it looks bad like in a goofy way, where I don't know.
All right,
I'm
leaving. No, just kidding.
I just don't like it at all. I don't like Spielberg in general, so that's
No,
yeah,
I don't understand. I don't agree, but that's the thing. Different people.
I don't think anyone. I actually never seen anyone that agrees with me. I just watched it.
But I mean that's what. I mean that's what makes it kind of. When I hear stuff like that, my ears perk up and go, really? Unpack this for me, please.
Yeah, it's just one of those movies that doesn't hit for him. But
Not at all.
I haven't seen it in years, so I don't even have any recollection really of anything other than like the pretty just iconic scenes, you know.
Right.
Yeah, but
I want to like it.
but
I
also
wanna
like
it. That's the
you're,
thing.
you're also genuine. You're like this doesn't, the stuff I'm saying about interesting takes on movies you don't like that other people do, that doesn't work if you're just being contrarian for the sake of being contrarian, which you're not
Right,
doing,
yeah.
obviously. But I just had to throw that in there. It was like I hate good movies just for the fuck of it, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, that's not interesting. That's just cool if you're being a contrarian.
I just don't see how E.T. is a good movie, but you could explain it to me. I really want to like it. It looks cool. Like the posters are cool, and the Blu-ray releases look really good, but I just don't like the movie.
Yeah, I think actually I think sound design has a lot to do with it. At least the early scenes where you don't see ET, but you just hear him making those,
Right.
those weird fucking noises.
Yeah.
And then I just bought the relationship between Elliot and ET. And then I think what Steven Spielberg did really well in that, and a lot of shows, movies and cartoons did back then. Even Peanuts did a lot. You don't see with the exception of the mom, you don't really see the adults. So they're kind of presented as otherworldly characters that you probably can't trust. And I think that ups the danger element of it. But again, it's also been a long time since I've seen ET. So, but that's the things that stood out to me. And of course, when he's like all shriveled up and gray on the side of the creek, there is like, oh god damn it. But yeah, I think between E.T. and this, Henry Thomas is like a really good child actor. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't put together in my head that he was the same actor in both this and E.T. But he was, I'm always going on the adventure with him. Like he was a good conduit for me as a kid to get into that world of Cloak and Dagger.
That's a good point to bring up. It's a good point to bring up that he's a good child actor, because if he was annoying, like a lot are, like, I don't know, a recent movie like The Babadook, that kid is very, very annoying, and it distracts you from everything else.
Yeah.
But it is a good point that he's good as a child actor, so it doesn't take away from it.
Yeah, you don't mind like going through this journey with him.
Right.
He's able to carry the movie kind of.
A movie would immediately become basically unwatchable if you think the kid is bad or annoying or just too much. Like the little girl in this is a little too much, but she's barely an annoying.
I like her because like she's the air quote annoying character,
but
she's annoyed. So I think that helps take the edge off a little bit.
Yeah, she's like the adult kid character,
the adult child.
A lot of her kind of lines and deliveries and all that was a lot of what I remembered about this. Like, because I'm watching this and I'm like, I kind of, the scene where he gets shot and the bullets go through him, I kind of remember that. The scene where they're trading the tape for her, I kind of remember that a little bit. But I'm, like, as I'm piecing together the scenes, as I'm watching it, the scenes with her in it and like her reactions to a lot, it was like, that's actually my day-to-day kind of vernacular, and I completely spaced that even came from this.
Yeah, there was a scene that I wanted to get your opinion on, because I didn't know if it was like a symbolism type thing or like if I was reading too much into it, but it's the scene where one of the bad guys has him kind of cornered and he's about to shoot him, but then he shoots at the wall where the imaginary friend is, and it's like he sees the imaginary friend there.
Yeah, that's the shooting scene, like, with the green screen.
Yeah. It's like where the bullets go both through him. Like,
yeah, I was confused by the meaning of why they shoot at the imaginary friend.
Well, they can't see him.
Right.
Until the end. Is that what you're talking about? It's the end part.
Yeah, where it's like it's just his imaginary friend, and he
I don't know.
Yeah, it's like
I don't know. Because on one hand, it's it does look like you can see him for a brief moment.
Yeah,
But also
That's what you get.
I think that's just extending the moment. I don't think that actually happened.
Mm.
I think that was maybe in his head before he shoots him, which talk about dark.
Yeah, yeah.
How old is he? 7, 10, something like that, and he's got to
I think
fucking
he's
kill
less
a
than
guy.
10. Yeah. He straight up kills somebody. It's in self-defense, but I mean, he takes it pretty well. I mean, he's
Yeah.
seen a lot in this
he also
short
gets
amount
like
of time.
kidnapped by grandparents and
Chloroformed,
Yeah.
just
like in like a 9/11 situation that
He
would not happen now. You would not have like two people pointing guns at an airport and stealing a plane.
In
a
fact,
kids
like
movie.
and I remember growing up around this time, like I never bought a plane ticket, but like kids were running around pretty freely back then.
Mhm.
And which is why I guess there was a lot of famous serial killers that kidnapped and did things to children.
yeah.
But there's a bunch of stuff they were doing in this movie that just wouldn't fly today. Or if it would fly today, it would be like that's weird. But I mean, that's back in the day. That was just kind of how it was a little bit. Again, I don't recall buying a plane ticket, so I don't know about that. But everything else, like just walking around, hey, I'm gonna buy a ticket to this. All right, 7-year-old, with no one asking where's your parents.
Yeah, or like them just taking the bus. Like, you have your bus pass, go.
I took the bus.
I know, but you're a city kid. This didn't really strike me as much of like a. It still felt a little suburban, just like where they live and the places that they frequent. I was never allowed to go anywhere by myself as a kid.
I would
know
take
you
the
were,
bus.
but
There's no way I could take the subway alone before I was 12 or 14. Subway is a whole different beast of scary.
Yeah. We weren't allowed to go around on our own, but I have 3 brothers and a sister, so we never went anywhere alone. We were just always in a pack. So
yeah, safety in numbers.
Yeah, if you were going to be a child serial killer, good luck with us. You have to catch all 5 of us, otherwise the jig's up for you.
Yeah, someone will go.
That's
contact the police or something.
I don't know if you saw The Black Phone.
Yeah,
which just came out. That is about a child serial killer.
Yeah.
That's
what I liked about The Black Phone, because it kind of captured that kind of era pretty well, I think.
Yeah,
and the fear surrounding that sort of thing.
Yeah, I surprisingly really enjoyed it. It did kind of give me a little bit of all the jump scares that it had. Every single one, it got me.
It did.
Every single one, and I jumped like out of my seat in the theater.
I don't recall a lot of jump scares on that, but it did
like
maintain
3.
It did maintain some dread throughout, where it felt a little dirty watching it at times.
Yeah,
like, there's something weird going on here. I don't know. I think of anything, if I would have changed anything about The Black Phone, would just be do away with the mask entirely, because I think that probably made it a little more sillier than it needed to be. But I mean, that's like a small nitpick of otherwise pretty decent serial killer movie, I think.
Yeah,
just like Cloak and Dagger, a serial killer where the killers never got around to doing it.
No, yeah. It's a good Cloak and Dagger is a good little adventure film.
Yeah, it's like a kid's thriller.
Yeah.
Like it's for a kid, this is heavy. Like it's a heavy thriller that like would, I don't know, when even now I'm an adult and the old lady had the 3 fingers and I was like, oh no, that means she's bad.
She's the one.
Because a good person wouldn't be through that.
Yeah. That also reminded me of the Princess Bride when Inigo Montoya says that he's looking for the 6-fingered man, and then he sees the guy with the 6 fingers on the horse.
Yeah.
And then, just, other movies that this kind of reminded me of. But
I do want to point out that if you have 3 fingers, that does not mean you're evil.
No,
that's very true.
No, it's just in
Ninja
the context
Turtles have
of the
3
movie.
fingers and they're heroes, so
that's so true. Yeah.
But if you're an old lady listening and you have 3 fingers, we know you're evil.
unless you're an old lady Ninja Turtle.
Yeah, there you go.
That was like that was also one of my stupid childhood things. Like I would watch Ninja Turtles. I totally wanted to be a Ninja Turtle when I grew up. I was like just sitting there, like, laying down, about to go to bed, just being pissed off. Like, why the fuck am I not a Ninja Turtle? This sucks.
Eating pizza in the sewer is.
No, not even that. I literally wanted to be a Ninja Turtle. Like just being the idea of being a human just seemed like just bullshit to me. I was like, I'm just a stupid human. Why can't I be a Ninja Turtle?
No, I get that. There was this show that I used to watch when I came home from school, and it's called the Winx Club, which is a very girly, like, little show about fairies. And they went to this like fairy school to like learn how to do fairy things, and they all had powers. And I would just remember being like, I wish I was a fairy. Like, I wish I could go to this fairy school and have power over animals or plants or whatever.
That was an annoyingly popular girls show.
It was very
back
popular.
in the day. Like, you couldn't go to Toys R Us without getting all those toys in your face. Like the pinkish fairies and the purple fairies.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible. Never watched the show.
Yeah.
But unless someone else has anything else to add, I guess we'll jump to our ratings of it.
Yeah, not too much. I would say this would probably, if you got kids, this would probably be a good one to show them.
Yeah.
It's got like just enough thrills to kind of shake them up a bit, but not like, it's not Human Centipede, so I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, they kind of gloss over all of the maybe the more unsavory parts where it's like it still happens, but everyone's like fine with it. He has a little bit of a hang up of killing the guy, but
there was a part where they're on the boat and where he first meets the old couple, and she's looking at him, it's like some pervert. It was like, but she knew who he was, or at least. So actually, now I kind of gotta watch that again and see what that's all about. If that's a plot hole, or if she's just seeing him in practice for the first time, just going, "Yeah, we need to hire better
goons."
Yeah, better goons.
But yeah, I think that. Well, why don't you give your rating first?
I agree that it's good for kids, but it's also good for a parent because it's not annoying at all, and it will remind you of other movies you grew up with because it has that formula that doesn't age. And I give it a 5 out of 10, which is a negative rating, I guess, but I still did enjoy it a lot. It's not special to me because I didn't grow up on it, but I can see why it'd be special to others. And movies I grew up on that I think are special to me, I probably rate lower. So I'm just realistic with my ratings, I guess.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna show this like as a kids movie, I think this is probably 8.5 to 9 out of 10. But if this is something you grew up on, or if this is something you're watching as an adult, probably around 6. I think it's definitely rough around the edges. And if you're not into movies like this, obviously this isn't going to be the one that brings you in. But I think it's got enough good going on, and you can be entertained. Mostly, I think this, as far as kids go, as a kids movie, that's kind of what you got to look at this. And I think probably 8.5. 8.5 out of 10 is probably fair, I think.
Yeah, I also gave this kind of a 6 as an adult. Watching this for the first time, it, like you said, I think that it's not annoying to watch, which is always a plus with kids movies, because there's a lot of movies that kids kind of gravitate towards that you're just like, Jesus. Do we have to watch Frozen 2 again?
Do we have to watch the entire Trolls TV show again?
Yeah.
On the same weekend we just watched it one time.
Yeah.
This is very specific. Mentioned to something.
But I think it's a fun family movie that anyone can kind of at least enjoy to some degree. It has like some twists and turns,
I can't believe I never saw this on like cable on a Sunday afternoon. Feels
this was on cable all the time back in the day. Probably where I saw it the most times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, this movie makes me. I think Dabney Coleman's like 90 now.
Mm.
Oh wow.
89, 90. He's certainly getting up there, but I I just need to go back and watch more Dabney Coleman movies because this one reminded me of how much I miss seeing him in things. So,
But to be fair, you did
this is
look a
probably one of
little
the better
older.
ones, I think.
You looked a little older to have a kid that age. Maybe that's just me.
Well,
I
yeah,
don't
but
know.
he's also one of those guys that's he's looked like he was 80 years old since he was 20.
That's
Probably.
true.
Yeah.
It's like Steve Martin. He's looked like 80
it's the
years old since
mustache.
forever. Yeah, for sure.
Well, the kid tried to convince that those two old people were his parents. You know,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Security
at the
guard to
airport,
get him
right?
to
It's like,
not
do
get on
we
the plane.
look like we could have a kid that's 8? We're 80. It's like, well, the kid did say that you were his parents, so
I don't know.
I don't know why you're rejecting him.
But yeah, it's a fun movie.
Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I'm glad I got to watch it. Probably would have never
Never would
come
have
across
come
it.
across it
Yeah.
organically. I think.
I'm just glad this movie didn't completely suck because
Yeah.
again, watching it, I loved this as a kid, and then I haven't seen it in decades. So watching it again, if I watched it again, it was just complete horseshit. I'd be like, oh man,
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot
another
of.
part of my childhood fucking dead and buried.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about The Pacifier because it reminds us both of this because we grew up on it, and I watched it again, and it's terrible, but I still enjoy it
Yeah.
because it reminds me of being young.
Yeah.
Yeah. The same thing with like the Disney Channel original movies. I feel like I watched where I thought at the time they were the greatest pieces of cinema
Mm-hmm.
that ever existed. I had watch parties at my house, but growing up and watching them again, they're fun, but they're not nearly as good as
Right.
your child brain thinks
I
of them.
I would argue that they are the greatest pieces of cinema for that moment of your life.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, that's so true.
Because I mean, it's all subjective anyway. So if the greatest movie ever when you're 8 years old is different than the greatest movie ever made when you're 40 years old, except for me because it remained Gremlins to this day.
So I guess that's all from all of us. I'll let someone interject if they have anything. No?
No, just more Dabney Coleman and everything. I'm just gonna have to go through his IMDb and just go back because there's a bunch of his movies I haven't seen, and I miss the guy. And watching this again kind of reignited my love for him.
Yeah.
And of course, Henry Thomas is great and everything. Since he was a kid, like even if his movies suck, he's usually really good in it, and a lot of times usually the most iconic part of it, which is very strange, but also happens to be true.
So yeah, I guess go find Eric at Find Your Film.
Oh yeah.
And we'll see you next week.